All right, so this experiment, really hit home with me on many different ways. And one of them was, first of all, I feel extremely sorry for the dogs that went through this experiment. And also, I can personally relate to the shock dogs. So the experiment went like this. Dogs were placed in a two-sided box. Dogs that had no prior experience with being unable to escape a shock would quickly jump over the hurdle in the center of the box to land on the safe side. Dogs that had previously learned that escape was impossible would stay on the side of the box in which the shock occurred, not even trying to go over the hurdle. So there was a box, or a cage, right? And in between the cage there was a wall. And the floor was like a metal mesh, which was electrified. So a dog would be placed on one side of the cage, and they would turn the electricity on, and it would shock the dog, and all the dog had to do was jump over this little fence onto the other side, and it'd be safe. So what they did is the first group of dogs, they would turn the electricity on this side. The dog would jump over to the other side of the cage and would be safe, so it would get out of the way. But what they would do with the next batch of dogs would be this. They'd electrify side of the floor. The dog would jump over the wall, but this side would be electrified as well. So no matter which side the dog went on, it'd be electrified. So you can imagine after time and time and time of this, the poor dogs would learn that there is no point of jumping over the wall because they're going to be electrified regardless. And after some time of doing this to them, they would only electrify one side of the cage to see if the dog would jump over to the now safe side. But the dogs that had learned that either side was electrified wouldn't even bother to jump anymore. They would just sit there and take the electric shock. And they would bring in new, fresh dogs and do the same thing. Electrify this side. This side would be safe again. The dogs would always jump. Of course they would jump. They'd get out of there. And the reason why is because those dogs didn't learn the helplessness of that poor batch of shock dogs that no matter which side they jumped on, after being conditioned to do so, they just wouldn't even bother trying anymore. They would just sit there and get shocked. How many of us can relate to that? It's like no matter which way you go, you're gonna get shocked, so why bother? It was basically learned helplessness. And that experiment always stuck with me and it hit me right there, not just for those poor shock dogs that learned helplessness, but also, for all of us that can identify with that and understand that, like, helplessness is learned, which means, and this is the powerful part about it, you can unlearn it. You can unlearn the helplessness, right? That's such a powerful thing. Anyway, I just wanted to share that experiment with you because I found it so powerful, and I hope it helps you in your life, or at the very least, gives you something to think about, right? So until next time, you've been listening to and watching Bryharden 360.